What's up everybody, I'm Ace, and first of all, if you're a returning viewer, thanks for coming back, and let me know how the audio quality is sounding in this video. I did upgrade my microphone, and I'm still messing with it, but hopefully we should be seeing some improving audio quality gradually over the next few videos, which I'm very excited for. And if you're new here, and if at any point you get value from this video, consider subscribing. But now that that's out of the way, today I'm going to be talking about Rochas or Rojas, I'm not really sure, Moustache. I think Rochas is the correct pronunciation. I'm just going to stop saying it though, because I'm sure I have triggered somebody. But regardless, this is what I'm here to talk about today, and this is fairly new to my collection, I would say, but I have had it a few months. I've had most of this a lot longer than that, but I've had this a few months, and I've given it a good few wearings. And this is, just to give you a brief idea of what this is a deeply sexy fragrance. This is, when I first sprayed it on, the first thought that came to mind, and what is most commonly brought to mind for me when I put this on is, man, this is sexy. With some caveats, of course, nothing is perfect and neither is this, but I'll get to those as the video goes on. So first of all, this is a very inexpensive fragrance. This is right in that $30 to $40 range, which is a steal for this, but really just generally that's very cheap for a quality fragrance. I mean, really. So this should definitely be one that's on your radar, but I'll say that even if you're into more expensive fragrances, this is definitely something that you should still be considering because it punches well above its weight class. And this is, I would say, a predominantly spicy fragrance, but I'll go ahead and go into the notes so you can get a little bit better idea of how exactly it comes across. So in the opening, you get a little bit of orange, but that orange is underneath this mix of spices. I detect some cinnamon in there, maybe some saffron, but just a big punch of this collection of spices with a sweet orange underneath it, with this ambery dark vanilla underneath that. And that comes up much more as it goes on, but in that opening, it is predominantly that spicy note. At moments, it almost comes across like a cinnamon candy, like a Red Hot, but that goes away very quickly. It settles down a bit from there. But it's also worth noting that even though it does have orange and it does have vanilla, it never gives that orange dreamsicle vibe. It's never that bright, never that sweet and bright as something like that. It stays very dark, even though it does have citrus and it does have very sweet notes, because it is so spice forward. And as it goes into that mid, that orange dies down and you get left with that spicy ambery vanilla. Now, spicy ambery vanilla might not sound that special, right? Like a lot of things do spicy and vanilla and do it well. Spice Mama Extreme, Tom Ford Tobacco Vanille, much more expensive. And of course, the one this is most often compared to, Yves Saint Laurent Tuxedo. So that's a very common thing, and you wouldn't think that would be as exciting as it is, but it's that super unique blend of spices, especially as it gets into that dry down and it simplifies a little bit. And it's just those spices and that ambery, thick, dark vanilla, maybe even a benzoin, which is a very dark form of. The way it comes across is like a very dark form of vanilla, but it's this combination, almost in the same way if you've ever smelled, it's a very expensive fragrance, but if you've ever smelled Grand Soir by MFK, this gives me, just in the way those notes combine, not that it smells like that, but in the way those notes combine, it reminds me a bit of Grand Soir by Maison Francis Kurkdjian, which is among the best smelling fragrances I've smelled. I unfortunately don't own that one, but to be compared to that is good in and of itself, even though it doesn't necessarily smell like it. And as it gets into that dry down, those spices go away, and it does eventually just become an ambery vanilla skin scent. But that's not a bad skin scent, and it stays interesting, even in that far dry down. It never becomes a simple, vanilla fragrance, like for example, something like Versace Eros in the far dry down will become a very simple Tonka fragrance. This never does that. It stays reasonably complex even into that far dry down, which is something I really like it for. And I'll go ahead and get into performance too. It's good. I wouldn't say it's the best performing thing that has ever been created, or it's not the Blue Beast from Amouage or anything like that, but it's plenty powerful enough. I'd say longevity, 8 to 9 hours. I would say projection, good, slightly above average. Sillage, slightly above average as well, although I will say the sillage is maybe a bit more potent than the projection. I think that just comes down to the type of fragrance that it is. With those heavy vanilla fragrances, the sillage will stay longer than the projection. And I will say that projection does die down a good bit. Basically, as that spice dies down, the projection dies down in equal measure. That's really the main part that I think is projecting for it, is that spice. That's what's really popping off and getting you that attention, getting you noticed. And after the first hour and a half, 2 hours, that's died down a good bit, and it will be much closer to the skin, but you do still have that sillage even as it goes further in. And I think that's part of what makes this such a good date night romantic situation. And like I said, just so sexy fragrance is that sillage, that as you come by, that it's not necessarily super in your face, even though in the opening it is projecting enough, but as it gets into that dry down, it's not in your face, but it can still be noticed. That sillage as you come past can still get you noticed. And I think that's really cool. Just the characteristic of it is very interesting. Now, there are some caveats with this fragrance. This has been pretty much all pros up to this point. There are some caveats. So I'll say, first of all, I am 25, right on the money. And this is widely considered to be a 25 and up fragrance. In other words, if you're a younger man, you might not be into it. It's more of it's an older man's game, right? Not that it's an old man fragrance, but it's more refined and more mature than what most younger guys would be into. But I will say, even for me, I think this leans a little bit older than me. I would mark this as a 30 plus, like a 35 to 40 would really be ideal, but I'd say a 30 plus fragrance. I can get away with wearing it sometimes, but I showed this to my wife blind, didn't tell her anything about it, showed it to my wife blind, and repeatedly. And the first thing she always says is, "You smell old," which is not really what you want to hear when you're wearing something that you want to be a sexy fragrance. And as it dries down, she doesn't feel that way. As it dries down, she likes it. But I think it's that really complex blend of spices that makes it lean older. Like, not old, but it does make it lean older, unfortunately. If you are, like I am, in your 20s, I would say maybe not pass on it, but know that going in and wear it accordingly. If you're dressed up, it might still be good. If you're trying to lean a little bit more mature in the way you're presenting yourself, it can work for that, absolutely, but it is a little bit more mature. But, if you are in your 30s and you want a date night fragrance, man, this is perfect. This is a perfect date night fragrance for a man in his 30s that knows what he wants. It's perfect. It's wonderful. And that kind of brings me right around to, is this a recommendation? Well, I'd say that there are two categories, right? There are either you are a mature leaning person, you're kind of that classic type guy that likes more classic, maybe a little bit more older leaning fragrances. Absolutely, then it's an absolute recommendation. If you are in that 30 plus category and you're looking for a nice, seductive, sexy date night fragrance, absolutely, this is the perfect one for you. $30, you shouldn't even have to think about it. For everybody else, if you're under 30 and you're thinking about it and you like the way it sounds, I would still say you should pick it up because it is so cheap. But just go in knowing that it's not something that you might not be able to use as often as you'd like, because it does lean a little bit more mature. So all in all, I'd say this is a solid 8 out of 10, and for the money, it's a steal. Even though it's something that I might not be able to wear all the time, it is something that I really appreciate and that I just love to smell on myself. And that's the other thing, you know, if you just want something that smells awesome that you can just smell on yourself and you don't have to feel bad, like on a Saturday if you're at home and you don't want to feel bad spraying something expensive, but you just want to smell something good on yourself, $30, man, and it smells so good. So good. I just can't get over how cheap it is, because it smells like it costs at least over $100. And I'm shocked at the price they're selling it for, but I'm definitely glad that they are, because it makes this an easy recommendation for me. And again, this has been Ace Reviews, and if you guys enjoyed the video, you want to see more, got a bunch more coming, hit that subscribe button and I'll definitely have more coming. I am still working on the 100 fragrance videos. I know I talked about that a while ago. Unfortunately, some stuff in my life came up, and I've been having trouble recording videos, and I've also been trying to purchase equipment to make the actual quality of these videos higher. And like, for example, the microphone that this is the first video I'm using it on. But those are coming, absolutely. Somebody mentioned that in the last video. Yes, those are still coming, absolutely. I've recorded several that I've frankly just thrown away because I didn't like the way they turned out. But as my overall video quality increases and I get a little bit better at this, because let's be honest, I am new at this. I appreciate you guys kind of putting up with me in this phase. And those of you that have already subscribed, man, means the world to me. Thank you so much. And I will see you guys next time. And you guys have a great day, as always.